Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Biblio Fitness. Hope everyone is doing well. Just had an amazing pull session. Last pull session before my deload. I feel like I need to take the week off because the fatigue is really hitting me throughout the day. I'm feeling extra the exhaustion is really becoming unbearable. Starting to get to that level, so I'm just toughing out this and then my legs. I do my last leg workout on Monday, and then that'll be it, and I'll take a much needed break. But aside from that, so I've been listening to the History of Rome, the podcast by Mike Duncan, even though it's like 10 years old, 12 years old at this point. It's a fantastic freaking podcast. If you have any interest whatsoever in Rome, oh my God. It is so good. Holy shit. So right now I'm at the point where where it's the crisis of the 3rd century, where the legitimacy problem that was plaguing Rome really became quite apparent, and it was never solved. And I wanted to talk about that today because Rome is my favorite state ever. And it's not because of what they became, and it's not what they did. I feel like they were inherently flawed because, well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that shortly. I have my own perspective of how it could have been solved. But it's my favorite state because of studying it and studying the transition and the transformations that it constantly made, and the adaptations that it constructed in order to continue to stay on top of an ever-changing world. It was never the same form of government. It started off as a monarchy, as the Roman mythology goes, with the seven kings, and then you had the Republic in 509, even though that date is highly questionable because I think they put it 509, what was it, 509 or 508? Like a year before Athens had democracy. Because they had to one-up the Athenians, And then they went on, to Republic, and then you had the dictatorship. You had, the whole Caesar Civil Wars. And, I mean, they say it was a republic, but it was basically an oligarchy. That's really what it was. The people who had the money had the votes. That's just how it was. And even from then, you had a legitimacy crisis. You had people trying to change how things were. That sort of resentment, that sort of frustration towards the patrician class was used to great effect by Julius Caesar. That's how he got to ultimate power after he defeated Pompey in the Battle of Pharsalus and shit. And then came back to Rome, got assassinated, and came Augustus, and developed the principate, which is, you're a senator just like everybody else, but you're the first among equals. And he got all these powers, the tribunician powers. He got, supreme command of the army. He had Egypt was basically his private property. So he was the only one that was able to pay the legions. And at the end of the day, Rome was nothing more than a military dictatorship. And that's really what it was, because if you had loyalty to the army, there was nothing anybody could do. If you had an army waiting outside the Senate House and you're saying like, yo, I need you guys to sign this bill for me, the votes doesn't matter. It was just a way to legitimize the actions that were being made, and on the face of the government, or this is what we want, the Senate wants. So as if there was a choice in the matter. You know what I'm saying? That schizophrenia is what I believe led to the ultimate destruction of Rome. Just constantly kissing ass, just constantly wasting time and energy. and not calling it what it is caused the third century crisis. Instead of making it a monarchy, which is basically what it ended up becoming. I mean, it's very different because I don't think there's any other state or any other country or any other empire where the soldiers had so much goddamn fucking power and so much influence. Motherfuckers were levitating people up to their commanders and their generals to the title of imperator or whatever, and killing them like it was all good and shit. I was listening to the podcast, the Mycenaean Legion, which is around the Danube. They promoted 5 people in a span of like 6 years or some shit. Like, they were constantly going in and out, like back and forth with people. And I mean, that's what happened with Rome. Is like the secret was out, as Tacitus said, after with Nero, and you had Claudius. Claudius, and then, well, not Claudius, Caligula. Sorry, Claudius was actually pretty good. He just didn't have the legitimacy that Augustus had. Therefore, people didn't really pay attention to him like that. Is that crisis was never solved, and the fact that people didn't want to call it what it is, and you had to constantly pretend like it was something else, really fucked shit up. And it led to the era of the barracks emperors, because they finally realized, like, bro, like, why are we even paying attention to these idiots? They don't mean anything. That's what Severus Alexander learned, and he put on, no, not Septimius Severus. Sorry, not Severus Alexander. Septimius Severus. He's the one that he even told his kids. He's like, what is it? Pay only attention to the army and scorn all other men. Like, pay no attention to anybody else. Just make sure you have the loyalty to the army, and you're good to go. That's crazy that it became that martial. You know what I'm saying? And obviously it's gonna fuck up the economy, because all the money's going to the the army, right? But at the same time, it's legit, because the army is fighting against so many enemies. Like, that's another problem that Rome had, is that it was overextended. And if you really wanted to be pragmatic with it, and you really wanted to maintain your power, you were gonna have to downsize as well, because due to the lack of resources and technology available to the Romans at that time period. Maintaining that sort of large empire was at that point just not possible. It just wasn't. There was too many nations coming out. You know, you didn't have barbarians fighting one another anymore. They were coming in at you. You had multiple states just as strong, or getting stronger, because they were in their youth. You've been around for a while. And they're fighting each other. They're constantly killing each other. There's constant civil war in Rome, while there's barbarians, while there's the Gauls and the Vandals and the Visigoths and the Ostrogoths, and you had the Sassanid Empire. You had a whole bunch of people just coming out of the woodwork, and you're still fighting civil wars. So it just became it was just not possible to retain your position in the world anymore. That's crazy that a government but it really does attain to the strength that they were able to exist for so long with that glaring hole in their system of government. Like, that's crazy. And people were just being, oh yeah, elect them emperor, okay, emperor, okay, emperor, and just coming like a revolving door, and people switching sides all the time. And holy shit, bro. It's crazy that it was never, ever solved. No one, like, they were unwilling to adapt. You would think with a civilization with that many years, we'd be adapting, like, okay, so this is how we get it. But no, people just wanted to maintain power, and people just were hungry for military glory and for the loot and the wealth, and so they were willing to kill one another to have control of the whole goddamn thing, and call themselves, Maximus or Aurelian, you know, Invictus, or what is it? How he was called the savior of the world or whatever, because he reunited the empire after it split into three during what was it? Gallienus. Gallienus. But it's a crazy empire that never was able to figure out what the fuck it was. Like, it suffered from severe paranoid schizophrenia. Like, that's what it was personified in a way. It didn't even know what it was. It had no identity. It was constantly being toppled. Because then after the Principate, you had the Dominate, which was, you know, brought upon with Diocletian and Constantine and Theodosius. One can say it started with Septimius Severus, like him telling his kids. You had Caracalla, you had Severus Alexander, even though he was being all patriotic with it, like he was the last princeps, as people call it. But then you had people like Aurelian, you had people like Probius, you had people like, you know, Gallienus. Like, he was the one that really separated, like, either you were with the government or you were with the military, but you could never be both unless you were at the very top, unless you were Augustus. So, the Augustus. It's a fascinating state. I love learning about it. It's just crazy, and it's a convoluted mess. It becomes a convoluted mess, and it becomes very difficult to know what the hell is going on, because so much shit just gets thrown out. And then you have the paucity of evidence, and you have the paucity of time periods where, you know, like, there's just nothing to go on, because no one was writing, or the writings didn't survive to the present day, unfortunately. But you got to check out that podcast. I'm still not done. I just got to Aurelian being assassinated. He fucking assassinated Aurelian. And he assassinated Probius. So now we're in that pickle as well. So I can't wait. But I'm also getting the Edward Gibbons of the history and fall of the Roman Empire or something like that, because I want to read more about it. I love that state is absolutely fucking crazy. So that's what we have for today. Hope everyone has a great workout. It's almost the end of the year. Hope you get a little bit more gains. Wait. Oh, your boy's getting respectable. Go to the fucking gym. Get your mind right and get your body right. You'll be all good. Love y'all, man. Peace.